Welcome, race fans, back to Monaco and the next round of our fantastic Formula Fun series. This is how our championship looks so far. Zenzuku claiming a very strong lead, currently 151 points, plays Scrubbins on 128. And a fantastic performance from both drivers so far this year. But Scrubbins really needing to get to grips here with Zenzuku and outscore him. Al, best scoring AI driver from each round, has managed to accumulate 84, and then comes the rest of our human competitors. Fly Scott ahead of Dad Racer, High B, K-Splift, and Footy currently at the bottom of the standing, still looking for that first scoring podium this season. Well, as I mentioned, we're here at Monaco for the fabulous location of the next round of the championship. Drivers are ready on the grid to get underway. The 2024 winner was Zenzuku. The 2025 winner was Scrubbins. Let's get ourselves trackside and see how the drivers compete with what is a phenomenally tricky racetrack. Our 5 lights are ready to go. Wow, long hold there, and it's dropped the clutch. It's go, go, go. Zenzuku and Scrubbins away fairly evenly, but they're 3 wide in the row behind as they run down into Saint-Devot, and it looks like Fly Scott getting sideways, getting squeezed as well, and just about our drivers making it up by Rivage for the first time in a reasonable state. Fly Scott there in third, held on ahead of Dravenbolt, Virtue Sons and Brantry with Pure Pro, Side Race, Dad Racer and High B making out our top 10. Zenzuku continues to chase Scrubbins, but Fly Scott is starting to gap away here as they head down to the Grand Hotel hairpin, one of the most iconic scenes in Formula One history. Of course, Fly Scott comes around Portier and heads under the dark of the tunnel, the comparative dark of the tunnel, before heading straight back out into the sunshine, bearing downhill in towards our Nouvelle chicane, and the drivers just weaving their way through there. Fantastic to get everybody through this first half lap safely as they head towards Tabac, named after, of course, the tobacconist kiosk that it was always been on the corner. There's a big one at the back of the grid there. It looks like Dad Racer coming unstuck in his black and gold livery and heading into the barrier at Tabac, unfortunately getting a little bit of a pit maneuver possibly from one of our AI drivers, but heading through our Saint-Devot corner once again goes Scrubbins ahead of Zenzuku. I think we missed the overtake on screen, unfortunately, for that one, and Dad Racer having to come in almost certainly with damage repair and a change to strategy on this 20-lap sprint that we've got here, and a front wing change happening as well. You can see the mechanics going to work. A very quick pit stop that to add in to the normal tyre change, a full nose repair as they come through Grand Hotel once again, and underneath what is now a pedestrian bridge separating what used to be the sea and is now a man-made island. Zenzuku comes out of the tunnel down towards that Nouvelle chicane, passing the rich viewers there on their yachts that have been pulled away from the coastline just in case we have a car go airborne through the swimming pool, Le Piscine, as we head through and round into our end of the lap. Raskas and Anthony Noakes. So far though, Fly Scott clearing away in P3 behind Scrubbins and Zenzuku ahead of Dravenbolt and the rest. Here's the start looking across the back of Zenzuku. Perhaps we'll be able to see the overtake as he claims that inside line, all important inside line. And Scrubbin goes neatly all the way round the outside. What an amazing overtake from Scrubbins. That takes massive bravery from being in second position behind in the championship. This one looks like it's Fly Scott's route. He tried to thread the needle down the middle of 2 drivers into Saint-Devot. Talk about no heroics into Saint-Devot. That does not count. And look at this. It was actually a mistake by the AI driver on his inside, pitching himself sideways and uncontrollably into Fly Scott. We join, I think, Dad Racer in the black, and I'm suspecting gold livery of his racer as we go in. And of course, just a misjudgment on the speed, climbing the curb and the pit lane exit, trying to get ahead, but being told in no uncertain terms by race control to back right off that one in towards this corner. We go through the Nouvelle chicane. Great drive there perhaps using a little bit of boost, but unfortunately the driver on his outside misbehaving, possibly in what looks to be almost a Lucky Strike style heritage livery, or possibly from the old Honda days, but clipping the rear of Data Racer, and I can apportion zero blame to Data Racer in that regard. Looked like possibly Scrubbins coming through Sandevot that time might have just tagged the barrier on the outside. As they say, if you're not kissing the barrier lightly, you're not pushing hard enough. And Zenzuku is absolutely dropping the hammer as they actually run straight over the bump on the run down towards Mirabeau Haute, and down then through the mini chicane towards the Grand Hotel. Slowest and tightest corner on the F1 calendar, of course. Absolutely fantastic place to watch the race from. I dream of one day being able to. Out of Portier they go, through and underneath the tunnel. Marshall's watching on. One of the best seats in the house, the Marshalls of course have. And Zenzuku then is looming large in Scrubbins' mirrors. It's quite a noticeable bright blue livery that Zenzuku has, which Scrubbins, I'm sure, sees in his nightmares as they come through Piscine very, very quickly indeed, round the rear side of that swimming pool and in towards the end of the lap. This is La Rascasse, made famous, of course, by Michael Schumacher, and possibly was that driver coming on into the pit lane? Not quite. I'm hoping the drivers will avoid any pit lane speeding incidents here. Zenzuku is right on the heels of Scrubbins, possibly not able to quite use their ERS to full deployment as they head up the hill, up Beau Rivage and in towards Massenet now. Once again, it's lap 5. We are 1/4 distant already in this race. It absolutely flies by at this wonderful, wonderful track, Monaco. Probably my favourite track of all in the entire world. Heading down in towards Grand Hotel Hairpin we go. And Zenzuku just unable to really capitalise. You can see them coming through Mirabeau Basse just as our third place driver Fly Scott is coming through Mirabeau Haute, as in high up and low down Mirabeau options, then down in towards our Nouvelle Chicane. A hint perhaps that Zenzuku is using the driver aid of the of the racing line, which I strongly encourage him to switch off. We've got Scrubbins though, scrubbing the barrier, unfortunately it looked like, and letting Zenzuku by very, very comfortably and easily. Perhaps just overstaying the welcome on those tyres. We'll just look back and see if possibly Scrubbins is heading in towards pit road at this time. It looks like he's actually stayed out, surprisingly to me, as Fly Scott comes through. This is Dad Racer, way off the pace, way off the back of the grid, but I think able to try and make this strategy work. I don't have information as to which tyre he is on currently, and whether he's able to run through the end of to the end of the race on that one tyre change with the unscheduled early pit stop. But the Exo Tiger sponsors will be very happy to get that close up, as then we've got Fly Scott just the rear getting a little bit lively and then catching the front brake, as many drivers do as the front right gets unloaded into Mirabeau Haute. We go through the Hotel Hairpin once again, as you see Data Racer coming through Saint-Devote now. The track from this camera angle is made to look much wider than it actually is. Hopefully we'll get an onboard running up the hill with drivers, especially with drivers with other rivals around them. Heading in towards Piscine, you get the quick glimpse at the small Olympic swimming pool. Well, that's a contradiction in terms, isn't it? But the Olympic swimming pool there at Monaco that was built after the race first began. It used to go straight from the tunnel exit all the way through to Tabac and then on to Rascasse as they come out of Portier. Then this is, I think, Dad Racer on board with him. Zenzuku leads at the moment by 11.3 seconds, so Scrubbins has clearly taken his scheduled pit stop then, as Fly Scott is in the pit lane now on the lap after Scrubbins. His tastefully outfitted mechanics go to work, but Fly Scott comes through and out of pit road, hopefully not picking up a pit lane penalty. The calculations have been done properly on this race weekend. Here is Dad Racer finally catching another driver. That looks like it might be Hybe, not far ahead. So another human driver. No, it's not. That is Scrubbins getting very lively. A very late call to make the overtake there on our Lucky Strike driver. Picking up a penalty though for track limit abuse, as is so often the way into this Nouvelle chicane. And there, the all-green racer of Hybe, getting a bit sideways, might have picked up that, just touched that inside barrier on the first part of the Nouvelle chicane, which is so easy to do. You've got to take it so close in order to make your way through. But there's Dad Racer, at least picking up one position and not at the absolute back of the grid. It looks like several drivers moving down in the order, thanks to Fly Scott pitting the lap before them. So he's managed to get back in front of all the AI or AL drivers there. Coming on out of the pits is one of them, but we don't care too much about those drivers, but they make for some good opposition when the grid might spread out a little bit from our human competitors. Here is our Dad Racer once again. He's got 3 competitors in close proximity, so he wasn't able to make the massive undercut with the early stop. That's probably the difference between him needing that front wing and not, and possibly the slow running into the pit lane. Here is Zenzuku, very slow. It is absolutely pedestrian into this short pit lane, a very busy pit lane as well. Tyres going on, no more further adjustments for him. And the bright blue of the Shark-sponsored Zenzuku is heading back out once again. Should be able to stay ahead of Scrubbins after Scrubbins making contact with the barrier there before their respective pit stops. That is the super slow pit lane exit. Scrubbins goes by. Can he stay ahead as he's got to slow more possibly into Sandevot? No, Scrubbins clears him. Fantastic result there for Scrubbins. What an amazing sequence of outlaps and following flying laps Scrubbins must have put in there on those new tyres. That is a golden undercut from Scrubbins, and he's got a 1.4 second gap. He really needs to outscore Zenzuku, as we mentioned at the top of the program today. Through Grand Hairpin we go. And suddenly it's looking like maybe Zenzuku got some sort of a problem. There's certainly some red spots on the battery display there at the bottom, and it's not. He's pressing overtake. There's no battery for Zenzuku. Looks like a battery failure. And he is going to super affected by that battery, unfortunately, for Zenzuku. That is like going from Formula 1 down to Formula 3 in terms of power output then. A really problematic situation for him. And that is going to gift Scrubbins the best opportunity possible. Already losing 0.7 of a second in half a lap is Zenzuku. Here is Fly Scott. Is he aware yet? Has his team engineer, been on the radio, been watching the progress of Zenzuku? Can he actually see what's going on? And has he communicated it to Fly Scott? Or is Fly Scott suddenly going to think all of his Christmases and birthdays have come at once, with Zenzuku suffering a mechanical failure at this time? We'll see. A gap normalising to around 2.6 at this stage. Fly Scott closing down by 0.9 of a second that previous lap, as our AI racers come flying up the Beau Rivage hill and in towards Massenet here. Our mechanics, our marshals, are kicking the dust. They've got nothing to do with the soles of their shoes at the moment as they head on in to the fabulous Mirabeau Haute, and then of course the Grand Hotel hairpin, the casino at the ground floor of the Grand Hotel has obviously been featured in many feature films and pre-shows for the Grand Prix in the past. Here is, of course, Dad Racer then in the black and gold, almost Lotus JPS style harkback livery here, as he catches Pure Pro, Brantree, Virtua Sons, all in order there, and then I think Dravenbolt's even on the run, but that is a tough ask here to try and get by 4 AI drivers around the bicycle in a living room-esque tightness of this Monaco Grand Prix street track. Of course, the original street track, the one that all other street tracks are judged by. Through Sandevart, and he's perhaps focuses on the cars ahead of him, or maybe those tyres are already starting to cry for mercy. Zenzuku, his battery may have come back to him. He's down to 2.1 seconds then. Love to get an onboard for Zenzuku at this point. We'll see if that is the case. the gap opening once again? No, it was just as the battery was not as useful there to Scrubbins that I think the gap dropped back. This is Zenzuku. Can't see his battery usage at this point. Looks like it's full. Once again then for Zenzuku, as Fly Scott is 7.5 seconds away from a famous result to be in front of Zenzuku. That will be, it's rare for anybody to finish ahead of him, let alone two competitors at the same race. So here we have Dad Racer brushing the Tabak exit barrier as he heads in towards Piscine in and Piscine out. That is, of course, one of the most treacherous qualifying positions there, as Charles Leclerc will certainly attest to. Round the achingly slow Rascasse and Anthony Nogue's corners. It's nice to get a little touch of that ramped curb on the outside if you can through Anthony Nogue's. It just helps to turn the car around. And Sandovot, once again, the start-finish straight is anything but. And it's a blink and you miss it. Perhaps 1 second you can spend looking at your dash this entire lap around. So you better get your setup and your diff all organised before the start of the race. Lap 12 of 20, Scrubbins ahead of Zenzuku and Fly Scott. Then our battle pack of AI drivers with Dad Racer on the tail in 8th. Saito Race is in 9th, and Hybe at the tail of the grid after at least one off-track, well, into the barrier incident. You can't really go off-track here. Hybe in P10. We do, as far as I'm aware, still have a 3-second penalty for Scrubbins to pay. I think that occurred after his pit stop. We shall wait and see as that goes. But Scrubbins has dropped back. Scrubbins has suddenly dropped back. There has been a problem there. On the leaderboard, I can see Scrubbins has gone from P1 down to P2. Now P3 for Scrubbins. Is he serving a second's pit stop, perhaps? I'd love to get eyes on what is happening with Scrubbins. I hope it's a pit stop. And this is actually going to be a 2-stop race as Scrubbins drops back. Again, I have not quite got the clarity from my position at the moment as to whether we are operating under 2025's Monaco's statutory 2-stop rules or 2026 with all of the bells and whistles with the hybrid system and 50-50 power distribution. Anyways, Zenzuku leads by 9 seconds at this point on lap 13 of the 20. Fly Scott is in second position here, coming out of Portier and underneath the Salesforce branded tunnel this year. As we head through, can Fly Scott make the difference here and start to catch Zenzuku? Looks like, for me, that's Hybe round again at the Nouvelle Chicane and gets lapped by our second position driver, Fly Scott. This is one of those Marmite circuits. Some drivers just have an utter nightmare around here. That is Dad Racer doing his best to shave off the UBS sponsorship on the outside of Tabak. Once again, sorry, of the Piscine out. DRS sticker is on the car, but you can't exactly use it at this stage. There's a couple of cars coming out of the pit lane for Dad Racer. Has he managed to overcut? It's possible that he has indeed managed to overcut. Certainly he's past Brantree Pure Pro as well. Sight Race has jumped ahead of everybody. Will likely have a second pit stop. I'd love to get eyes on Scrubbins and hope that he has, and his strategy, hope that he has indeed taken his second pit stop. And how will Zenzuku feel about the pause of a pit stop once again, and whether that is going to affect the battery or not? So rare in our league racing. Do we actually end up with mechanicals for the racers? I love that feature here. Here is, I believe that's that's Fly Scott with the red flashes on the black background rather than the gold. Here comes Fly Scott in towards pit road and in front of his mechanics for his second and I believe will be final stop here on lap 15 of the 20. They actually left half a tyre in the middle of the pit box there. Hit replay if you didn't quite catch it, as helping over the barrier. And once again, Dada Racer just wanting to shave off any kind of paint on the walls or the sidewall of his Pirelli P0s. Coming through, Anthony Nogues getting the tail out. Stylishly goes Dada Racer. Gotta love it when that works out to your advantage. And he's once again in the same situation. I don't know if he's got overheated tyres, if he's got a too strong balance on the front there, or what is happening for Dad Racer, but I'm sure there's a big smile on his face every time he realizes that he's still pointing in the right direction into Mirabeau, that beautiful little curbstone and rain gully down the inside of Mirabeau, where you try and just catch your front tyre into every time you go through. Here is Zenzuku then in his second and final stop, putting the soft tyres on this time for a sprint to the flag. We'll see where Scrubbins can manage here. Is Dad Racer shaping up a move on our AI driver? Is he? Not quite, no. It was a tricky one to try and get the advantage there. Might need to think about, well, he's using deployment, I think, on the run up to Tabac, but he'll be once bitten, twice shy into there, will Dad Racer, as he comes through into Piscine Inn. And Scrubbins has got ahead and stayed ahead of Zenzuku. 2.1 seconds the gap now he needs to hold for 5 flying racing laps here. And you can see Monaco been used since 1929, before the inauguration of the Formula One World Championship, of course, were Grand Prix races here. And if you've ever had the opportunity to pick up a historic Monaco track circuit in the likes of Assetto Corsa, R Factor 2, then I would highly recommend it in period cars as well. Fantastic fun with the hay bales and the lack of super slow chicanes as well. Here we go then, down into Mirabeau once again. It's lap 16 with Dad Racer, who's got the busiest view ahead of him. He's got Virtuous Sons in P5, Draven Bolt in P4, stopping him from getting into that 4th place and 4th of our human racers. Of course, got a great drive. Alf Portier has Dad Racer here. I think he'll be in a position. He's certainly put to the outside by our Virtuous Sons, tries his best. There's a little bit of debris comes off one of our cars. I hope it was off the off the Virtuous Sons car. As we fast forward through to lap 18 we go into the dying embers of our fabulous Monaco voyage here. Once again, Dad Racer absolutely pushing the envelope as he hops over the Piscine out exit curbs, temporarily ghosts there, I think, with a little touch on the barrier. That is so super tight. Just one driver in front of him then, and a potential 4th position coming for Dad Racer. Scrubbins leads by 3.9 seconds. Tells me, I think, that Zenzuku's battery failure. Think about Daniel Ricciardo having to defend his lead with no battery deployment, and his famous win. Can Zenzuku do anything about it? I think, unfortunately, given the Scrubbins strategy masterclass here has got him ahead. I think that Zenzuku is going to struggle, but Flyscott looks to be too far away to threaten his P2 as we look back. Once again, this is Dad Racer again, where we're focusing most of our attention because he's having the busiest race day with other drivers around of him. Here he comes through that tunnel. It's lap 18, of course, for these drivers. Almost 2 laps left to go then for the races. Scrubbins is almost certainly already up there. Looked like one of the drivers in the background went a bit close to disaster as then once again we get Dad Racer trying a move into Tabac. You have to be more than fully alongside. You have to be ahead into Tabac to make that work. And even then, you need some compliance from the driver on your outside. Dad Racer not picking his opportunities perfectly there. And once again, the rear getting light from Dad Racer on the way out at Anthony Noakes. Perhaps his best opportunity is into this Sandevot corner. But he's got no grip on the rear axle whatsoever. Flyscott has cut the gap to the car in front, Zenzuku, to just 15 seconds now. But can he do anything about Zenzuku? I don't think he can catch 15 seconds in a lap and a half as he exits Portier into the tunnel section. This is Dad Racer getting ahead, not quite getting ahead. He's now into a defensive posture with Virtuous Sons getting back to his diffuser area. Certainly picking up plenty of exhaust fumes out of his F1 car is Virtuous Sons on Dad Racer. Here is Zenzuku. Zenzuku comes through to start his final lap of the race. It's been a horrible race for Zenzuku in comparison to his usual excellence, but Scrubbins looks to be the man who's going to take the victory, but he does still need to keep it out of the barrier. His gap to Zenzuku, an enormous 4.3 seconds. Here is Fly Scott, though, 16 seconds off Zenzuku. That's a testament to the inherent speed of Zenzuku, that he's managed to maintain and extend the gap to P3 with no functioning battery power. Is insane. I mean, obviously, Monaco demanding less from the battery deployment and much more from the driving skill and accuracy, but still, that is a monumental save, you have to say. This is Dad Racer. Time running out for Dad Racer to get that P4 here, avoiding the bump on the way downhill into Mirror Boat. This is Scrubbins scrubbing the tyres as he goes through. Rascasse once again, and he's actually drifting for the cameras, I want to say, or at least the tyres have gone off. Here comes Scrubbins to take the Monaco victory, a victory he will remember for many a year. And a fabulous podium to stand upon. Zenzuku across the line, just half a second given all that messing about from Scrubbins. Zenzuku crossing the line in P2, and I think when he reflects on the lack of power he's had this time, it will be a very welcome position. Another dodgy overtake there with an AI driver for Dad Racer, and it's Fly Scott home in P3. This is Dad Racer, I want to say. Yes, it is. Difficult with the sun glinting off. Great exit and a bit of deployment, but again the AI racers just put the squeeze on, lose what I hope to be their own end plate there. Dad Racer now needs to play the ultimate Minister of Defence role as he heads through Piscine in towards Rascasse. A lick of smoke off the rear left tyre there on into Rascasse for him as he's wound the brake balance to the rear. Here he comes then home in P4, Dad Racer, with a super hard fought ahead of our AI drivers, and a horrible dance move from Scrubbins who gets a roll of the eyes, I think, from Zenzuku on the podium. But one of the best trophies in World Motorsport. And it's Scrubbins home with the fastest lap as well, even after his 3-second penalty, held onto it ahead of Zenzuku. Fly Scott, Dad Racer with High Beat coming home in the final position at the end of our great Monaco race. Don't forget to tune in next time. We'll be at Spain. But for now, from us here at Formula Fun, my name is Webbo. We will catch you on the next race day.